Imagine waking up tomorrow and your job is just gone. No alarm, no boss, no email, no one asking you to circle back or hop on a quick call. No Monday. For the next 8 minutes, you're not watching a history video. You're living your first day as a human, 40,000 years ago. If your first thought is, I'd finally be free, congratulations. You just had the exact same thought every human being had for 300,000 years. Because that wasn't a fantasy. That was just Tuesday. Well, they didn't even have Tuesdays. The whole idea of chopping time into 7-day chunks so you can dread 5 of them is a shockingly recent invention, and honestly, one of our worst. Here's the headline, so you don't miss it. The average prehistoric human may have worked fewer hours than you do. Pause on that for a second. Now, let's prove it. We've all absorbed the same cartoon. Caveman wakes up, runs from something with teeth, grunts, dies at 30. Constant grinding survival, exhausting just to picture, mostly fiction. In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Lee tracked exactly how the Jew/Hwanzi people of the Kalahari spent their time. Adults spent about 2.5 days a week, roughly 17 hours, acquiring food. That's less time than some people spend answering emails. The rest of the week? Theirs. And this wasn't a fluke. The Hadza in Tanzania, the Ashe in Paraguay, the Martu in Australia. Different continents, different climates, same number. 15 to 20 hours a week on survival. You, statistically, work about twice that, with none of the napping. Some of you are already typing, but those are modern hunter-gatherers, not ancient ones. Fair. So let's check the bones, because bones don't lie, and they definitely don't lie to win an argument on YouTube. But here's where modern humans would completely fail. When archaeologists compare hunter-gatherer skeletons to early farmer skeletons, the farmers lose. Badly. Shorter. Worse teeth, riddled with cavities from grain-heavy diets. Arthritis from repetitive labor. Earlier deaths. The hunter-gatherers were taller, stronger, healthier joints. An extremely awkward discovery if your worldview depends on farming equals progress, freedom equals chaos. And here's the detail that should actually stop your thumb mid-scroll. Art. In 1994, explorers found Chauvet Cave in southern France. Paintings of horses and lions and rhinos, 30,000 years old, painted with shading, perspective, motion. Someone crouched in total darkness by firelight for hours, painting an animal on a wall. Not for food, not for defense, for beauty. In Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found 100,000-year-old shell beads with tiny hand-drilled holes. Jewelry. The nearest coast was 20 kilometers away. Somebody walked 40 kilometers round trip, collected shells, and spent hours drilling them by hand, just to look good. In Germany, a 40,000-year-old flute carved from a vulture bone, 5 perfectly spaced finger holes. Not a weapon, an instrument. None of this makes sense if life was a 24-hour panic attack. It only makes sense if these people had the one thing you're chronically short on: time. Your day, 40,000 years ago. So let's actually live it. You. You wake up with the sun. No alarm. Your body already handled that. You grab yesterday's leftover meat. Nobody complains it's cold. Microwaves won't exist for a few 100,000 years. You eat around a fire that never really went out, and you talk. Not because you have to, but because talking is what mornings are for. Mid-morning, you decide not to hunt today. Instead, you head out to gather with a few others, mostly plants. Actually, not meat. Foraging does the real nutritional heavy lifting, and you already know from decades of watching which roots and berries are food, which are medicine, and which will absolutely ruin your week. Your cousin disappears with 3 others, spears in hand. You'll probably see him by dinner. Maybe not with anything. That's fine too. Back at camp, someone's been carving the same spear for 3 hours straight. Nobody thinks that's weird. There's no supervisor, no timesheet. You do it well because being good at things is literally how you earn respect in a world with no LinkedIn. If your cousin's hunt does happen, it's not a movie chase. You're a persistence hunter. You track an animal at a steady jog for hours in the heat until it simply overheats and collapses because you're one of the only mammals on Earth that cools itself by sweating instead of panting. Long legs, an absurdly large glute, the ability to breathe independently of your stride. All of it evolutionary hardware built for exactly this. So next time you're dying on mile 9 of a half marathon, know your ancestors did this on purpose for dinner and considered it a Tuesday. Sorry, still no Tuesdays. By early afternoon, your productive hours are basically done. And what happens next is the part your modern brain can't process. Nothing. And everything. You nap in the shade. People groom each other. Someone's making jewelry they don't need. Your kids get passed between a dozen different adults and grandparents throughout the day. Anthropologists call it alloparenting. So you're never chained to childcare for 8 straight hours the way daycare drop-off pretends is normal. Then the sun sets, and the conversation itself changes. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner analyzed hundreds of hours of recorded talk among the Zhu Huanzi and found daytime conversation was practical. Tracks, harvests, who didn't share fairly, but at night, around the fire, 81% of conversation shifted to stories, myths, ancestors, jokes, legends from far away. This, researchers argue, is where human culture was actually born. Gods, meaning imagination, only show up once your stomach's full and nothing's hunting you. And here's arguably the weirdest fact in this entire video. You don't sleep the way you think. Historian Roger E. Kirch spent 2 decades combing diaries, court records, and medical texts and found that before artificial light, most people slept in 2 phases. First sleep, then an hour or 2 of genuinely calm wakefulness in total darkness, then second sleep. You'd use that middle window to talk, reflect, or just exist. So if you wake up at 2 a.m. and panic diagnose yourself with insomnia, you might just be doing exactly what humans did for 300,000 years, minus the campfire and minus the crushing awareness that you have work in 5 hours. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans shaped their lives around nature. You worked when there was food to find and rested when there wasn't. The sun set the schedule. Then, about 10,000 years ago, that stopped. Agriculture may have been the greatest invention in human history. It may also have been the moment humans accidentally invented overtime. Once you start farming, you can feed more people. More people need more food. More food needs more farming. A few generations in, populations had exploded, and there was no walking it back. You were locked in. Nature didn't set the schedule anymore. Crops did. And farming was brutal. Plowing, weeding, defending crops, storing grain. The skeletons confirm it. Early farmers worked harder, ate worse, and died younger than the hunter-gatherers before them. But populations kept climbing, and with them came specialists, tool makers, then soldiers, priests, administrators, and eventually the idea that your time could belong to someone else in exchange for resources. The job was born. It's been eating your weekends ever since. Here's the uncomfortable math. Today, the average person spends around 90,000 hours of their life working. Your hunter-gatherer ancestors spent a fraction of that and filled the rest with painting, music, gossip, naps, jewelry nobody needed, and stories that became the root of every religion and myth we still tell. They weren't chasing success. They weren't grinding toward a retirement they might reach if the math worked out. They woke up every morning already free, already enough, with nothing to prove to anyone, already living the life most of us are working our entire lives just to earn a shot at. We started this video asking what ancient humans did all day. Maybe the more uncomfortable question is what you're doing with yours. Would you go back? Let me know in the comments. If your last brain cell just got a little smarter, subscribe. There's more of this where that came from.